7-year-old Isaac Tate enjoys playing superheroes with his friends in Breckenridge. And one afternoon recently, we caught up with Isaac at the West Texas Rehabilitation Center in Abilene. He was wearing one of his favorite superhero shirts. But to the therapists and employees at the rehab center, the real superhero is Isaac.
He's very outgoing and he makes friends wherever he goes. People they'll talk about him or talk to me about him and they'll say, well, I don't even realize sometimes that he has issues because of his personality.
Isaac is an amazing kid. If ever I'm going to have a bad day, he's going to make it better when he walks through those doors. He always has a smile on his face. I have worked with him since he was 8 weeks old, and I've never once heard him complain about therapy.
This likable youngster has been in therapy virtually his entire life. He's had multiple surgeries on his hips, knees, and feet. And he's been coming to the rehab center since he was 3 years old. When Isaac was born, his spinal cord had not formed correctly and completely, a condition known as caudal regression. And he had bilateral clubfoot and bilateral hip dislocation.
The caudal regression just means that the spinal cord didn't fully, it didn't finish forming all the way down. And so he has some sensation issues in his legs, and he obviously has trouble with the motor control of the muscles in his legs.
We stayed with his therapist, Keela, for a while, and she came to the rehab a few years. He's just made leaps and bounds in progress here since we've been here and been able to work with all the therapists and therapies they do here.
Keela began Isaac's therapy at his home when he was 8 weeks old, starting with simple stretching and progressing to motor milestones such as rollovers, crawling, and pulling to stand.
When it came time for walking, he started in a little reverse walker and was able to progress to tripod canes and then onto his forearm crutches. And since then, he has just blossomed and he can walk forwards, backwards, sidestepping all by himself now. I mean, he has made amazing improvement.
Among Isaac's many friends at the rehab center is Ken McComas, who is retiring after 20 years at the rehab center. On the day that Isaac first walked independently for 25 steps, Ken rewarded Isaac with a prize, his favorite drink from a vending machine. Now a visit with Ken is a regular part of Isaac's therapy when he comes to the rehab center. Clearly, to Isaac, Ken is a superhero. But to the therapists, Ken, and the employees at the West Texas Rehabilitation Center, Isaac is the real superhero.
For Brianna Rooney, life has been full of challenges and struggles. It started at the age of 10 when she collapsed, and that changed her life forever.
My mom took me to Abilene Regional and they discovered that I had MRSA. It's a staph infection, and they flew me to Cooks where they couldn't do much for me. I was on life support for a little bit. From there I went to Parkland Medical Center. It's a burn treatment, and the only option was to amputate my leg. From there I went to Children's Medical Center in Dallas, where they continued to care for it, and eventually I lived, even though they didn't think I would.
Brianna eventually received help from Scottish Rite hospitals, but unfortunately that assistance was short-lived.
I turned 18, and at that time you no longer can be seen at Scottish Rite, so from 18 to 22 I was on the same prosthesis without any care at all.
It would be several years later before Brianna would address problems with her prosthesis. Ironically, she came to the center to see about making adjustments to her old leg. And to her surprise, the staff at the rehab saw a tremendous opportunity for this young mother.
Well, when we first met Brianna, we immediately recognized that she had the potential to do amazing things. and that she had the potential to use some really high-end technology, and to be able to match her potential with that technology and not worry about, are we going to be able to get paid for this, was just a blessing to me and the staff here at West Texas Rehab.
I cried right there in the office. I didn't think it would be possible to ever do these things. I didn't think I could go step over step or go out and not be self-conscious or worry about if I'm gonna fall, or even carrying my babies and wondering, am I gonna fall down while carrying them? That was always in the back of my mind, the safety of my children with my old leg. It wasn't as secure as it is now. And so it was definitely, I cried. I won't lie, I cried.
Today, Brianna spends many long days at the center in therapy, doing what many people might call everyday events. But staff at the rehab are passionate to help her because they know that when she accomplishes her goals, these are no ordinary feats.
Brianna is an amazing person, and her attitude coming in of, I want to do whatever it takes to be able to accomplish more in my own life and to be able to do more things with my kids, and just her commitment to getting better and her commitment to therapy and her long-term commitment to doing whatever it takes is a huge part of why she's so successful.
Today we were trying to jog, and I haven't ran in 10 to 12 years, and so it's frustrating, but it makes me more determined to figure it out, not only for myself, but like I said, I have kids, and I really want to be the best mom for them, and I think this is really gonna help.
Dale Beebe knew where to go for help to relieve the effects of arthritis in his hands and fingers. The recommendation came from two of his most trusted sources, his wife and his doctor. They advised him to seek treatment at the West Texas Rehabilitation Center in Ozona, and it's making a big difference in his life.
She said, Dale, you should go and do that therapy because it's made a big difference in mine, and it will do the same for you. So I asked my doctor about it, and he said, Dale, I highly recommend it. It worked very well for my wife, and thus far it's working well for me.
Dale was diagnosed with osteoarthritis, one of the leading causes of chronic disability in the United States. The degenerative disease was causing pain, loss of ability and flexibility, and deformity in Dale's hands and fingers. But he knew where to find relief.
Arthritis is just something that people seem to think they just have to live with, that there's not anything you can do about it. And there are some things that you can do about it to help prevent deformities, maintain flexibility, range of motion, and function of your hands.
Amanda began with simple exercises for Dale to increase the range of motion and flexibility in his hands and fingers, which were stiff and painful. As Dale progressed in his therapy, Amanda added exercises to strengthen his hands and fingers.
I am losing flexibility now. With the therapy that's being done by West Texas Rehab, I will not lose the flexibility in these hands and fingers anymore.
We're also going to be making some splints for his thumbs to prevent further deformity in his thumbs.
Dale is a longtime resident of Ozona, and he says having the West Texas Rehabilitation Center in his hometown is a blessing.
We're 95 miles away to a hospital facility, and having these people down here is just marvelous. West Texas Rehab, being here, I mean, it's a real blessing. So, hey, yes, let's support it.
Even the simple tasks during care for two young daughters have been challenges the past year for this 26-year-old mother. But with assistance and support from her family and from the West Texas Rehabilitation Center, Brittany Larson has returned home to Ozona and is regaining her strength and restoring her health. Brittany's eventful past year began February 27th when she slipped on ice outside her home, fell and ruptured tendons in both knees. Injuries that required surgeries a few days later for bilateral tendon repair.
Her injury is pretty rare, she said, to tear both knees like that. She fell on the ice at her house. And she also has kidney disease, and that's what causes her muscles to be weaker and more likely to have torn like that with just a fall.
These are the brutal scars. Looks worse than they actually are. That's my right leg. And then this is my left leg.
After her surgery in San Angelo, Brittany received inpatient and outpatient therapy while residing for a few months with her mother in Georgetown before returning to Ozona to be reunited with her husband and daughters ages 5 and 6. She was able to receive physical therapy in her hometown at the West Texas Rehabilitation Center, while also traveling 3 times a week to San Angelo for dialysis because of her kidney disease.
The main focus has been getting back the range of motion in her knees after having had surgery on both knees and getting the strength back. She's spent a lot of time stretching, especially to get the bend back in her knees, and lots of quadriceps exercises, so lots of strengthening. She does laying down exercises, standing, sitting, and uses some of the equipment here too.
They've been fantastic. I mean, they've been getting, from when I started to when I ended, I felt so much better. I felt so much stronger. I mean, every day I would come back and I would be like, oh, I'm sore. But, in the next 3 days I would be, okay, oh man, that is awesome. I can do this, I can do that, I can walk more. They were awesome. And with the scheduling, sometimes I would have to deal with my kids, or I would have to go to San Angelo, or I would have to do something, San Antonio, and they would be like, okay, we'll reschedule you. So it was awesome.
Despite her misfortune, Brittany maintains her healthy, cheerful attitude. She is thankful that she can do physical therapy in her hometown. Her therapist believe it would be very tiring for Brittany during recovery to travel to San Angelo every weekday for both dialysis and physical therapy.
It's a good feeling to be able to offer this type of service, especially in such a small town. There's many small towns that don't have therapy. Their citizens have to travel a long ways to get therapy, and people of Ozona are able to come right here and get what they need.
The people here actually care, because I've been to some hospital places, I've been to some home health places that just don't care. And you come here and they actually want to know what your day was like. They like to talk about, like I said, they talk about you. Very blessed to have something like that here.
Wyatt Begren is well known to the therapists at the West Texas Rehab Center in San Angelo. The cute little youngster has been a patient for nearly 2 years, and his treatment includes audiology, speech therapy, occupational therapy, and physical therapy. But to Wyatt, it's all play.
He's so little, he's just playing. So we have to work in all of our goals into his play, and that can be kind of challenging.
Wyatt is 28 months old and is now in his 2nd year with bilateral cochlear implants. Patricia is working with Wyatt to improve his listening and talking as he learns to communicate verbally with his parents, Amber and Ronald. Patricia and the other therapists at the rehab center have made therapy an enjoyable experience for Wyatt.
He definitely has an attachment to being here. He walks in the door, knows exactly where he wants to go and who he wants to see, and everybody he runs into, They all give him hugs and smiles and says how cute he is, and pretty much he gets whatever he wants.
The treatment Patricia has designed for Wyatt gives him the opportunity to experience sounds and learn languages appropriate for an active 28-month-old youngster. Wyatt plays with sports balls and baby dolls. He crawls under tables. He enjoys blowing bubbles, and he beats on a drum.
He gets the opportunity to hear language, to hear sounds, and to practice using it when he gets to that point. And I only see him for a small fraction of his week.
Wyatt was born deaf, and now his parents are playing an important role as they join the team of professionals at the rehab center to improve the life of their first child.
He has so much potential.
The people that we came in contact with were very helpful and were able to get the information that we needed to make good decisions and figure out everything we needed for his impairments. Dealing with West Texas Rehab for us is definitely life-changing. I honestly believe that without it, our son would not be able to progress.
To Patricia and his parents, it may be therapy, but to young Wyatt, it's all play.
Hunter Hanner never expected to need the services of the West Texas Rehabilitation Center. Hunter is a longtime resident of Abilene, but he had never even visited the rehab until March 2015. That's when he was released from a hospital in Dallas after 6 months of treatment for a rare neurological disorder known as Guillain-Barré syndrome that developed after he received a bone marrow transplant. During the peak of his hospital stay, Hunter suffered from complete bedridden paralysis. He needed a tracheotomy because he could not breathe on his own. About the only thing Hunter was capable of doing was blinking his eyes. And even after returning home to Abilene, this 33-year-old father of three faced hours of therapy.
I was in a hospital in Dallas, top-notch facilities, doing inpatient rehab. And when we were coming out of the hospital, like, man, I just really hope there's not going to be a lower level of care once I get back to Abilene. And if anything, it's been better than what we had in Dallas. We've been very impressed.
Occupational therapist Bubba Klosterman and physical therapist Jody Hierholzer have helped Hunter improve posture and balance and regain stability and strength by working with a rowing machine, a shuttle glute machine, a suspension system, and other forms of therapy.
It is fun to be able to see the progress you're making. I mean, to go from being in a wheelchair full-time to now we're walking with walking sticks. The progress has been phenomenal.
We want to teach people how to get back to their lives independently. He is the reason why I do what I do. He's the reason why I became a therapist. And we tell him all the time, like, you don't just inspire the community, like, you inspire everyone that works at West Texas Rehab. And there's other patients that will watch his progress and see how well he's doing, and it motivates them and gives them confidence. So he's been a ray of hope for everybody around here.
The joy in their face when you take that next step, when you're able to stand up, when you take your first step with the walker. I mean, they're truly excited, and I mean, that makes it a lot of fun.
He's been such a blessing to not only, the rehab, to his family, everyone he knows, but to myself, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to work for him and to work for the rehab. It's an amazing place, and I'm thankful for it, and we really do great things here. We're like the hidden jewel of the big country.
Unlike most boys his age, Matthew Estrada has struggled to become 4 years old. But with help from the West Texas Rehabilitation Center in San Angelo, Matthew is becoming the 4-year-old boy his parents, Martin and Daphne, believed he could be. At the age of 1.5, Matthew was diagnosed with a metastatic brain tumor, and on Christmas Eve in 2012, after surgery, little Matthew suffered a stroke.
So he lost the ability to walk and talk and do things. So he got out of the hospital in February of 13, and we came here in March, just short after that, trying to find places to get him, help to get him to walk again and talk, and just basic needs to get him going.
In nearly 2 years as a patient at the rehab center, Matthew has learned to walk and talk with treatment from physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists. The stroke caused paralysis in his right side, and therapists are now helping him to overcome his neglect of this affected side.
The idea with the air splint on his left upper extremity is that by reducing the ability to use his really strong arm, he's left with no choice but to use that right arm.
It's been the greatest thing we've ever done, because it's good for him, and it shows that he's around people that care about him.
Katie and the other therapists designed an individual therapy program unique for Matthew. The therapists at the rehab center are strong advocates for learning and applying evidence-based practices to benefit each patient.
Our hope is that ultimately Matthew will have better function through his right side and be able to complete tasks that require the use of both hands effectively. Once he's into school, we'd like him to be able to put on his own jacket. Matthew's going to be able to make tremendous progress because he really does have a lot of function in that right arm already. He has lots of movement through the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist, and the hand.
He loves coming here. He would rather stay here all day if I'd let him. Instead of having to go home, he cries when he has to leave. It's a blessing to the community having people like this. I mean, if he didn't have this, where would they go? When it's hard for people to travel, the amount of money it takes and just to get folks involved is very difficult. They're so fragile in what they do, and the learning process can be hindered by having to go somewhere else and take them out of their environments. This is nice having it here. Finally, he started to become a little 4-year-old. You know, this is home to him, and he knows he's safe here.
Ashley and Quade Willman of San Angelo received an extraordinary Christmas gift in 2007. Their son Ryder came home on Christmas Eve after spending 3.5 months of his life in hospitals. Now an energetic 8-year-old, Ryder was born prematurely, weighing only 1 pound 7 ounces after his mother suffered a placental abruption and was care flighted to Methodist Children's Hospital in San Antonio. Ryder's premature birth led to sensory issues, visual deficits, and delays in the development of speech, language, and motor skills. He also suffered from 2 brain bleeds and twice required laser surgery, and was also at risk for retina detachment. Therapists from the West Texas Rehabilitation Center began seeing Ryder while he was a patient at San Angelo Community Medical Center, and today the rehab center continues to play an important part in his life.
He has a lot of sensory issues. He was developmentally delayed in speech and language, gross motor delays, fine motor delays, and that's pretty much where West Texas Rehab has been the biggest help.
Ryder's parents say he loves the outdoors and enjoys swimming, reading, playing with his dogs, riding horses, and feeding the cattle at his grandparents' farm. He attends 2nd grade at Reagan Elementary School in San Angelo, where he also receives academic-based therapy from the staff at the rehab center.
The rehab center has done so much for us. You know, like I said before, from the beginning, they've been there. They have been with us through the hard times and the fun times, and to support us as a family, and always wanted Ryder to succeed and do well.
It's an amazing place. You know, I mean, it's been a big, huge part of our life from day one, and I mean, without it, I don't think he'd be where he's at today.
I've been seeing Ryder for about a year now, and he's come a long ways. He has gotten over his anxieties and some of his sensory issues to where he can actually enjoy engaging with the therapist.
Ryder's parents appreciate what the rehab center has done for their son.
Through my business with all the fundraisers, we've always been more than happy. We did that even before our son was born. It meant a lot to me to be able to give back for what they've done for us.
He was a good Christmas present.
The therapists at West Texas Rehabilitation Center have a message for Xavier Valdez. Be yourself. This 6-year-old youngster was profoundly deaf at birth in 2007, but after surgeries for bilateral cochlear implants and treatment from audiologists and speech therapists at the rehab center, young Xavier is learning to hear and to talk and to communicate.
He has made progress in being able to discriminate different words, hearing it without using a visual to look at the mouth. He's also beginning to say words, so therefore he's using these words at home. Mom, dad, more. He's using a variety of words.
During speech therapy at the rehab center, Xavier identifies pictures when prompted by Kirsten, listens to her words without looking at her lips, and practices reading words and saying them more clearly. And Kirsten rewards him with small pictures of fruit to feed the hippos.
We're able to play games now where he's listening to instructions and directions, listening to those directions, and following through with much more of what we ask him to do.
I'm very proud of him. He is a different child than he started out as. He's very attentive. He follows instructions pretty well, and he just seems happier.
Xavier doesn't see himself as a deaf kid. He sees himself as just as a little boy that wants to play.
Xavier's treatment is a team effort that involves his parents and brothers at home in Anson, his speech therapist and audiologist at the rehab center, and his teachers in deaf education classes at Ward Elementary School in Abilene. Dr. Wendy Artho directs the audiology program at the rehab center and treats about 90 patients with cochlear implants, the only program of its kind within 140 miles.
And it's changed his life because he now feels successful and able to communicate, and so he's so much improved in his behavior and wanting to communicate.
We could never pay back the debt, ever. They gave us the child that we hoped for.
This is 9-year-old Elea Salazar, and this is what her world sounds like now, despite the fact she was born with profound hearing loss in both ears. Elea is a happy girl with a big smile and a big personality. She's a third grader who excels at reading and math at Altaloma Elementary School in San Angelo. She makes pottery from clay with her Girl Scout troop, and she likes to take selfies with her parents' phone. Her mother, Casey, says Elea is a normal girl.
Elea is very spontaneous. She's happy. She's loving. She's caring. She's got a huge heart.
But for the first 3 years of her life, she could not hear. When Elea was an infant, her parents noticed that she did not react when her older brother CJ slammed a door. After her diagnosis, she had surgery in San Antonio to place cochlear implants in both ears. and now she receives audiology and speech therapy at the West Texas Rehabilitation Center, along with continued mapping and testing of her implants.
So what I did with Alea today was called mapping, and basically that is connecting her cochlear implant to software in my computer so that I can program the device.
So I can hear music, and I can hear my teacher, so I can hear better.
Casey says the rehab center is important to their family and to her daughter Alea, who already at a very young age aspires to be a police officer.
That it is important. It helped my daughter. It's helping her to be able to interact more with kids, to be able to be in Girl Scouts, for her to be able to do jazz. My kid's normal, you know, there's nothing wrong with her, she just can't hear.